Fourth Addendum, the second symbol of the 8th section of the 29th letter. Because the first Quranic subtle point of the Kenz'al Arsh is a concise index of immensely majestic truths, it has been included here exactly as it stands. It reads as follows. 1. The most significant letter of Allah, which is said to be the greatest name, or Ismi Azam, in one narration, the initial alif of this name appears 40,000 times throughout the Qur'an, serving as the source of many profound mysteries. 2. Likewise, the lam alif, that follows the alif in the name of Allah, appears 19,000 times, a well-known and meaningful number. The final letter ha of the name also appears 19,000 times across the Qur'an, their correspondence reinforcing one another. 3. Since the single letter lam, by abjad calculation, has the value of 30, its appearance in the Qur'an, 30,000 times, corresponds to that value in a striking and meaningful way. 4. Furthermore, the war that precedes the name of Allah at moments of oath appears, by one calculation, 23,000 times, and by another, 20,000 times. It corresponds harmoniously with the number of 19,000 times of Ya and Mim and Lam Alif and Ha and their totals in the Qur'an. 5. In the same way, the definite article al, which stands at the beginning of the name of Allah, appears 70,000 times, corresponding precisely to the total number of Quranic words, which is 70,000. 6. Likewise, the letters ba and ta, which appear at the beginning of the name of Allah in expressions of oath, resemble two closely related companions. Ba appears 11,000 times and ta 10,000 times, again in harmonious correspondence. 7. Similarly, when the name of Allah is invoked at the end of words or in direct address, such as in the expression Ya Allah, the letter Ya appears 20,900 times, and from another perspective, slightly over 19,000 times. In this, it corresponds meaningfully with the counts of Lam Alif, Ha, and War, and with the recurring total of 19,000 found throughout the Qur'an. 8. The expression Lafz Allah itself appears slightly over 2,000 times in the Qur'an. When combined with the 19,000 occurrences, each of its Lam and Ha, the total reaches 40,000, once again corresponding to the 40,000 occurrences of the initial Alif. 9. Likewise, among the letters that are not part of the letters of the name of Allah, the letter Jum, whose abjad value is 3, appears 3,000 times in the Qur'an. 10. The letter Ha, a close companion of Jum in the order of the alphabet, likewise appears 3,000 times. 11. The letter Dal, which is also a sibling of Jum in abjad reckoning, again appears 3,000 times, corresponding harmoniously with the others. 12. Likewise the letter 12. Likewise the letters Tha, Dhal, Ghain, Kha, Dad, Sad, which hold higher abjad values and are somewhat heavier in pronunciation, each appear 2,000 times in the Qur'an, matching one another in a meaningful way. 13. The letter Sin, which is a graceful and light form related to Sad and whose 3 teeth are suggestive, appears 3,330 times, subtly alluding to delicate and refined mysteries. 14. The 2 kindred letters Ta and Za also correspond. Since Ta is lighter, it appears 1,200 times, while Zai, like its sister, appears at half that number, 600 times. 15. The letter Fa, whose abjad value is 80, appears 8,000 times in the Qur'an, corresponding to that value with 2 added zeros. 16. The letters Kaf and Ain each appear 9,000 times, once again forming a meaningful correspondence. 17. The letter Qaf The very first letter of the word Qur'an appears 6,000 times, corresponding to the total number of verses of the Qur'an. 18. The letter Mam, which in morphology can stand in place of Ba, appears 20,000 times, equal to twice the count of Ba and to half of Mam's own abjad value. 19. The letter Nun, whose abjad value is 50, appears 26,000 times, as though at half that rank. Such orderly correspondences, repeated 19 times and concluded with the word appears, certainly and without doubt point to a significant manifestation of miraculousness, even within the letters of the Qur'an. They indicate that within those letters lie extraordinarily ordered subtleties and profound secrets. They testify that each Quranic letter is worthy and capable of yielding rewards from tenfold up to 10,000-fold, that those who attempt to alter the Quranic letters display extreme foolishness and loss, and that the letters of the Qur'an, like its words, follow a deliberate order and a meaningful arrangement. Reason must accept this, and hearts with sight must see it. Whoever does not see is blind. Whoever does not accept is without a heart. قد ينكر المرء ضوء الشمس من رمد وينكر الفم طعم الماء من سقم. By this guiding principle, footnote, yet this blindness and insensibility do not diminish the truth itself. Rather, they reveal the condition of the beholder. The sun remains the sun, and the water remains pure and sweet. Busairi, Kasidet al-Burda. Those whose eyes are afflicted by illness do not see the radiance of this sun of truth, and those whose tongues are diseased do not sense or taste the sweetness of this water of life. In the same way, those who approach the truths of the Qur'an with diseased hearts or clouded insight cannot perceive its brilliance. They neither see its light nor taste its life-giving meaning, even though it flows before them in complete clarity. An important supplement to the second symbol. This is the second subtle point of meaningful correspondence that has arisen from the spiritual effusion of the Kenz'al Arsh supplication. As a sample from this subtle truth, 3 examples are presented. The first example. The correspondences related to the number of letters in the Quranic chapters at the total of 3,000 are extraordinarily remarkable and miraculous. For instance, the shortest chapter, Surah al-Kawthar, Qur'an, chapter 108, has an abjad value of 3,000 for its letters. This corresponds exactly to the 3,000 letters found in Surah Yasin, Qur'an chapter 36, the 3,000 in Surah al-Furqan, Qur'an chapter 25, the 3,000 in Surah Fatir, Qur'an chapter 35, the 3,000 in Surah al-Safat, Qur'an chapter 37, the 3,000 in Surah Sad, Qur'an chapter 38, the 3,000 in Surah al-Ra'd, Qur'an chapter 13, the 3,000 in Surah al-Rum, Qur'an chapter 30, the 3,000 in Surah al-Zukhruf, Qur'an chapter 43, the 3,000 in Surah Ashura, Qur'an chapter 42, and the 3,000 in Surah Ibrahim, Qur'an chapter 14. That these chapters, 11 in total, converge upon the same number of 3,000 and correspond with one another so precisely cannot, self-evidently, be the work of chance. Rather, it is a ray of the Qur'an's miraculous nature, scattered through its letters and adorning them with meaning. Moreover, the correspondence between the abjad value of 3,000 for the letters of the shortest chapter, Surah al-Kawthar, and the 3,000 words, according to customary reckoning, that is, in the sense of spoken discourse, of the longest chapter, Surah al-Baqarah, Qur'an, chapter 2. And likewise, the correspondence with the 3,000 true words of Al-Imran, Qur'an, chapter 3, and the 3,000 words of Surah Al-Nisa, Qur'an, chapter 4, cannot possibly be the work of blind coincidence, randomness, or unconscious agreement. Rather, it is an ordered harmony illuminated by a manifestation of the secret of miraculousness. In such great correspondences, minor numerical remainders do not disrupt the overall harmony and therefore are not taken into consideration. The second example, this concerns a miraculous correspondence within the chapter Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. It is as follows. Surah Al-Qadr, Qur'an, chapter 97, contains 120 letters. If the unpronounced hamzah is not counted, the number becomes 114, a number that corresponds to the total number of Quranic chapters, which is likewise 114. With this same number, the phrase Inna anzalnahu, together with itself, corresponds to the counts of letters in 10 chapters, the counts of words in 10 chapters, and the counts of verses in 10 chapters. Such layered and ordered correspondences can in no way be attributed to unconscious, purposeless chance. Rather, they are a ray of the Qur'an's spiritual and verbal miraculousness, reflected upon its letters, arranged with wisdom and adorned with harmony. Indeed, together with Inna anzalna, there is, setting aside minor remainders that do not disrupt the correspondence, a meaningful harmony at the level of 100 with 10 chapters. Surah Al-Duha, Qur'an, chapter 93. Alam nashrah laka, Qur'an, chapter 94. Surah Al-Zilzal, Qur'an, chapter 99. Surah Al-Takathur, Qur'an, chapter 102. Surah Al-Ma'un, Qur'an, chapter 107. The first half of Surah Al-Alaq, Qur'an, chapter 96, which was the earliest to be revealed. Surah Al-Tan, Qur'an, chapter 95. Surah Al-Qaryah, Qur'an, chapter 101. And Surah Al-Humazah, Qur'an, chapter 104. All of these display a correspondence at the 100 level that is not impaired by small discrepancies. Likewise, together with Inna anzalna, there is a meaningful correspondence at the 100 level in the word counts of another 10 chapters, namely Surah Al-Fajr, Qur'an, chapter 89, Surah Abasa, Qur'an, chapter 80, Surah Al-Mursalat, Qur'an, chapter 77, Surah Al-Buruj, Qur'an, chapter 85, Surah Al-Mutaffifan, Qur'an, chapter 83, Surah Al-Inshiqaq, Qur'an, chapter 84, Surah Al-Nazi'at, Qur'an, chapter 79, Surah Al-Naba, Qur'an, chapter 78, Surah Al-Munafiqun, Qur'an, chapter 63, and Surah Al-Jumu'ah, Qur'an, chapter 62. Each having slightly more than 100 words, yet aligning in a significant way. In the same manner, the letters of Inna anzalnahu correspond meaningfully with the verse counts, each slightly over 100, of 10 chapters. Surah Al-Isra, Qur'an, chapter 17. Surah Al-Kahf, Qur'an, chapter 18. Surah Taha, Qur'an, chapter 20. Surah Yusuf, Qur'an, chapter 12. Surah Hud, Qur'an, chapter 11. Surah Yunus, Qur'an, chapter 10. Surah Al-Nahl, Qur'an, chapter 16. Surah Al-Anbiya, Qur'an, chapter 21. Surah Al-Mu'minun, Qur'an, chapter 23. Surah Al-Tawbah, Qur'an, chapter 9. And Surah Al-Ma'idah, Qur'an, chapter 5. Moreover, within this remarkable correspondence, these chapters also correspond with one another. Given that thousands of such correspondences exist within this pattern, is it at all possible that they could be attributed to chance? Is it conceivable that such an alignment would be devoid of significant points and meaningful indications at its edges. The third example. The abjad value of the letters of Surah al-Ikhlas, Qur'an, chapter 112, is 1003. Setting aside small remainders that do not harm the correspondence in such large totals, there is a meaningful harmony with the word counts, each slightly over 1000, of 14 chapters. Surah al-Nur, Qur'an chapter 24, Surah al-Hajj, Qur'an chapter 22, Surah al-Anfal, Qur'an chapter 8, Surah al-Nahl, Qur'an chapter 16, Surah al-Isra, Qur'an chapter 17, Surah al-Kahf, Qur'an chapter 18, Surah al-Anbiya, Qur'an chapter 21, Surah al-Mu'minun, Qur'an chapter 23, Surah al-Zumar, Qur'an chapter 39, Surah Yunus, Qur'an chapter 10, Surah Yusuf, Qur'an chapter 12, Surah al-Naml, Qur'an chapter 27, Surah al-Shura, Qur'an chapter 42, and Surah Taha, Qur'an chapter 20. Likewise, from the perspective of letters, there is a meaningful correspondence with the letter counts, each slightly over 1000, of the chapters Surah Saba, Qur'an chapter 34, Surah al-Haqqa, Qur'an chapter 69, Surah al-Mumtahana, Qur'an chapter 60, Surah al-Insan, Qur'an chapter 76, Surah al-Tur, Qur'an chapter 52, Surah al-Sajda, Qur'an chapter 32, Surah al-Dhariyat, Qur'an chapter 51, Surah al-Rahman, Qur'an chapter 55, Surah al-Tahrim, Qur'an chapter 66, Surah al-Talaq, Qur'an chapter 65, and Surah al-Dukhan, Qur'an chapter 44. This is surely a wisdom-laden, subtle point of Surah al-Ikhlas, which is regarded as 1/3 of the Qur'an. It carries a great secret and cannot be the work of unconscious, purposeless chance. Rather, it is a reflection of the rays of Quranic miraculousness. The third symbol, the third subtle point of the Kanz, and the third treatise. This section points to 4 delicate aspects of Quranic miraculousness concerning the mystery of correspondence in Surat al-Alaq, Qur'an chapter 96, the very first chapter revealed. From each subtle aspect, a small example is presented. The first. In this way, this chapter, being the first to be revealed, demonstrates through the mystery of correspondence that it stands as an index of the Quranic chapters. It does so as follows. In this chapter, the letter hamzah is repeated 45 times, corresponding exactly to the 45 repetitions of lam. Together, they point toward the openings of 41 chapters and indicate the alif found at their beginnings. Likewise, the letter ya, with its 16 repetitions, corresponds to the 16 repetitions of ba. Together, they point toward the ya at the beginnings of 14 chapters. In the language of meaning, it proclaims, "After me, these will come." The letter kaf, with its 8 repetitions, corresponds to the 8 repetitions of sin. Footnote. Because the sin in Yasin, Qur'an chapter 36, is present as a spelled-out letter, ism al-hijah, it is counted among the chapters that begin with sin. Together, they point to the beginnings of 8 chapters each, declaring, "We are their indexes," with 3 repetitions of ta. Corresponding to the 3 occurrences of sad, it looks toward the beginnings of 3 chapters and announces them. The letter war, with 6 repetitions, corresponds to its own abjad value of 6. At the same time, it points toward the beginnings of 12 chapters that open with the oath letter war. Moreover, when its repetition is multiplied by its abjad value, the result is 36, and thus it shows, through precise correspondence, The 36 oath wars found at the beginnings of the 16 chapters that start with war. This points to significant mysteries and proves that all of this unfolds under a hidden order. Thus, Surat al-Alaq, having come first, announces and gives news of all the chapters to follow. A small sample from the third subtle aspect. The total number of letters in Surah al-Alaq is 328. Together with the phrase Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, whose abjad value is 999, the total becomes 1,327. That this total corresponds, by drawing pointed and meaningful attention, to the date marking the beginning of tremendous historical events cannot be accidental. For since this is the speech of the all-knowing of the unseen, وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ, there is not anything fresh or dry, green or withered, but is inscribed in a record clear to those who can read. Qur'an, chapter 6, verse 59. And, since the Qur'an is a copy of the clear record, Kitab al-Muban, indicated by that verse, it contains signs pointing to events in the world, as we have partially shown. Moreover, since this chapter, being the first to be revealed, serves as a kind of index to the whole Qur'an, and since there are many verses concerning the spread, conquests, and events related to the Qur'an, it follows that such indications conveyed by the letter counts of Surah al-Alaq are intentional and free from coincidence. A small sample from the fourth subtle aspect, the verses of Surah al-Kahf, Qur'an chapter 18, number 111. According to the reckoning of Tafsir al-Mikyas, its words number 1564. By virtue of its verses, it corresponds with 29 chapters. By virtue of its words, it also corresponds at exactly the level of 1,000 with 39 chapters. Furthermore, by corresponding with the word counts of 16 of those chapters and with the letter counts of 23 chapters, Surah al-Kahf, which constitutes exactly half of the wise Qur'an, unites with approximately half of all the Quranic chapters. This demonstrates that it has been arranged and ordered by a ray of Quranic miraculousness. The fifth symbol of the 8th section of the 29th letter, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This section concerns the opening by the key of correspondence of 2 or 3 secrets from Surah al-Nasr. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحُ, when God's ultimate help comes and the victory over Mecca is achieved. Qur'an chapter 110. As a sample, a few subtle points will be set down here. The first, there are more than 10 distinct kinds of correspondence. If a correspondence, viewed from different aspects, converges upon a single event, if it accords with its context, is suitable to its position, and is in harmony with the meaning of the discourse, serving also as its confirmation, then that correspondence rises to the level of an indication. In such a case, it may be said that the verse, through that correspondence, points to that particular event. On the basis of this principle, the events to which Surah al-Nasr alludes by the mystery of correspondence are likewise pointed out by Surah al-Kawthar, Qur'an chapter 108, which extends its finger toward the same event by way of correspondence. Surah al-Fātiḥah, Qur'an chapter 1, in the same manner looks toward and indicates the event shown by those 2 chapters. Surah al-Alaq, Qur'an chapter 96, also points to that event, and verses such as Inna fatahna laka indicate the same event through direct conformity. Such an indication, therefore, stands as an explicit proof. The second, since Surah al-Nasr is the speech of the all-knowing of the unseen, And since the immediate occasion of its revelation was the conquest of Mecca and the victory of Islam, and since, even when an occasion of revelation is particular, the intended meaning, as a rule, takes on a general scope, encompassing all the victories and divine assistances granted to the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, and since giving glad tidings by pointing to the particulars of that intended meaning is among the distinguishing qualities of miraculous speech. And since, at the time of this chapter's revelation, while the companions rejoiced at the divine glad tidings, Abu Bakr al-Siddiq and Abbas, may God be pleased with them both, wept, having understood, through its elusive meaning, the approaching passing of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Moreover, since the letters and structural form of exalted speech strengthen and confirm its meaning, the degree of its loftiness and the excellences of its eloquence are thereby increased. And since this Surah al-Nasr, through multiple aspects of letter-based correspondence, points in a striking manner to the Muhammadan conquests and the Ahmadian victories, peace and blessings be upon him, then, according to these established principles, the unseen indications and letter-based correspondence discussed in this treatise and in the other treatises on Quranic symbols are not merely rhetorical relations or subtle stylistic beauties. Rather, while they are flashes of eloquence and droplets of rhetorical refinement, they are at the same time Quranic indications and a form of unseen proclamation. To cite one example, this chapter, which caused al-Siddiq and al-Abbas to weep, contains, up to and including the war of Western proclamation, 63 letters. This corresponds by indication to the completion of the Prophet's lifespan. At the same time, the phrases فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ letters. Then exalt him with praise of your sustainer and ask forgiveness of him. Quran, chapter 110, verse 3, وَاسْتَغْفِرْهُ, point by their meaning to the three great duties of prophethood. Moreover, with 21 letters they allude to the fact that he fulfilled those duties for 21 years, with 2 years remaining, thus becoming a hidden cause for al-Siddiq's tears. Furthermore, with its 105 letters, the chapter indicates that the Ahmadian conquests will encompass east and west over a span of 105 years. And with the abjad value of Ahmadian conquests will encompass east and west, then exalt him with praise of your sustainer. It points to the year 428 Hijri, indicating the attainment of advanced stages of material and spiritual progress. Likewise, with the abjad value of the phrase 28 Hijri, indicating the attainment of advanced stages of material and spiritual, the people entering into the religion of Allah in multitudes. Quran, chapter 110, verse 2, which is 1222. It alludes to the continuation of those Quranic conquests and religious victories until that date, and then, by correspondence, to the beginning of a degree of pause and decline thereafter. In summary, the numbers of repeated letters within this chapter are themselves meaningful. They contain indications pointing to the particulars of the conquest and victory that form the very subject of Surah al-Nasr. For example, the two sister letters Ra and Lam, each repeated 8 times, point directly to the conquest of Mecca. Likewise, the letters Ba and War, each repeated 7 times, allude to the victorious pilgrimage of the Prophet, which was the prelude to the conquest of Mecca, resulting from the Treaty of Hudaybiyah in the 7th Hijri year. In the same manner, through its other letters, this chapter contains indications of the well-known Ahmadian conquests, peace and blessings be upon him, in harmony with Surah al-Kawthar, Qur'an chapter 108, and Surah al-Alaq, Qur'an chapter 96. In summary, together with the Basmala, the 8 words of إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ, and the 8 letters of the phrase Nasrullah, and the 8 repetitions of Ra within Nasrullah, and likewise the 8 repetitions of Lam, all point, by the mystery of correspondence, to the 8th year of the Hijrah, which is the date of the divine victory at the conquest of Mecca that this chapter explicitly foretells. Likewise from Idha to Wastaghfirhu, the 14 words and the 14 occurrences of Ha, Ta, and Fa within wal-Fathu, and the 14 letters of the phrase Idha ja'a Nasrullah, and likewise the 14 letters of the clause Nasrullah wal-Fath, all indicate, by the same secret of correspondence, the date of the extraordinary victory granted at the conquest of Damascus in the 14th year of the Hijrah. And so it continues. The correspondences of this kind within this chapter and its aspects of miraculous excellence are many. Yet, regrettably, although this 5th treatise of symbols was intended to consist of 3 chapters, due to certain spiritual states, only 3 matters from the 8 of the first chapter were written. The curtain fell, and what remained was left veiled. The 6th symbol of the 8th section of the 29th letter. This section concerns several secrets related, through the mystery of correspondence, to some of the many mysteries of Surah al-Kawthar, Qur'an, chapter 108, Inna a'tainaka al-Kawthar. These secrets clearly show that the phrase Inna a'tayna on its own is a miracle. As a sample, it is fitting to point to 2 or 3 small, subtle aspects. The first, in Surah al-Kawthar, the repetitions of the letters present range regularly from 1 to 9, that is, occurring once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, and so on, up to 9 times. Moreover, among the 28 alphabetic letters, 19 are present, and from each pair of sister letters the most elegant and the lightest on the tongue has been selected. Thus, from Zay and Ra, Ra is present, not Zay. From Shin and Sin, Shin is present, not Sin. From Dad and Sad, Sad is present, not Dad. From Tha and Ta, Ta is present, not Tha. From Ghain and Ain, Ain is present, not Ghain. From Kaf and Fa, Fa is present, not Kaf. From Ma'am, Mim, and Noon, Noon is present, not Mim. This represents a refined, orderly, and meaningful selection. Moreover, the total number of letters, together with the Basmala, is 65, which expresses Huwa. Without the Basmala, the number of letters alludes to the time of revelation. The second, the summary of the secret explained 13 times with the number 13 in the symbol concerning Surah al-Kawthar, Qur'an, chapter 108, is as follows. Just as, in the noble opening, Surah al-Fātiḥah, Qur'an, chapter 1, the 13 occurrences of al, or alif lam, correspond to and point toward the beginnings of 13 chapters, namely the total of the well-known opening letter chapters, the 7 beginning with alif lam ra, and the 6 beginning with alif lam mim. And just as the 15 occurrences of mim in al-Fātiḥah, together with the alif lam mim chapters, the ha mim chapters, and 1 alif lam mim ra, point to the beginnings of 15 chapters, placing a finger upon their mim, so too, with the secret that the Qur'an is contained within al-Fātiḥah, and al-Fātiḥah is contained within Surah al-Kawthar. Surah al-Kawthar likewise places 13 fingers upon the beginnings of 13 well-known chapters with its 13 alifs, just as al-Fātiḥah does with its 13 al, thereby showing that it itself is a small Qur'an. Thirdly, Since the word Kevza is a sacred, comprehensive, universal and luminous term, it carries meanings ranging from its lexical sense of abundant good to the otherworldly pool of Kawthar and to the Qur'an itself, which is a spiritual Kawthar, extending further to all the divine gifts of abundant good, the merciful bestowals and the lordly victories granted to the noble messenger. Peace and blessings be upon him, reaching as far as the conquest of Mecca, the conquest of Bayt al-Maqdis, the conquest of Damascus, and the conquest of Istanbul. Just as it contains these meanings, it also bears subtle indications toward them. For example, the conquest of Mecca in its 8th year, Mecca being the source of the Qur'anic Zamzam water and the pool of Kawthar, is indicated through a remarkable harmony. By the 8 non-repeated letters, the 8 repeated letters, the 8-fold repetition of the alif, the 8-fold repetition of the nun, and by the 8 letters in Kal-Kawthara, which also point toward the conquest of Istanbul. The convergence of these 5 sets of 8s through the mystery of consonants can never be accidental in this luminous, victory-proclaiming surah. Rather, it is a divinely guided and sacred indication. Fourthly, since Al-Kawthara is a universal reality, one of its concrete manifestations is Istanbul. And since this surah proclaims the Islamic conquests and the divine gifts bestowed upon the noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him. And since the abjad value of Al-Kawthara is 757, corresponding to the time when, during the reign of Sultan Orhan, under the command of Suleiman Pasha, 40 heroic warriors, known as the Irla, bore witness as Istanbul first entered the covenant of Islamic rule, and its opening chapter was recited through siege in the year 757. And since the kaf in Inna A'taynak indicates to whom Kawthar is given, while the fa in Fasalli indicates for what purpose, together yielding the number 857, which corresponds to the year when through the hand of Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror, the deputy of the noble messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, Istanbul fully entered the sphere of Islam and became a great mosque and a supreme place of worship. Then, it may rightly be said that this surah points almost explicitly to this Kawthar of the Islamic Caliphate. Ya Rabbi bisirri surati al-Kawthari wa bihurmati sahib al-Kawthari isqina wa rufaqa'ana min ma'i al-Kawthari fi yawm al-mahshari ameen. O my Sustainer, by the mystery of Surah Al-Kawthar, and by the sanctity of the one to whom Al-Kawthar was granted, grant us and our companions to drink from the water of Al-Kawthar on the day of gathering. Amen. The 8th symbol of the 8th part of the 29th letter. This concerns, in very concise form, the harmonies of letters and hidden indications found in 4 short surahs. Just as the miraculous Qur'an contains numerous aspects of inimitability and sacred mysteries within its truths, meanings, verses, words, and composition, so too its very letters contain many rays of miraculous wisdom. Indeed, in the arrangement of its letters, there are lofty indications, and in the numerical repetitions of those letters, there are delicate correspondences of meaningful harmony. It may even be said that just as each Quranic letter yields reward from 10 to 1,000 good deeds, so too each letter bears many fruits of indication and expresses many meanings. In effect, the letters of the Qur'an are majestic and multifaceted divine codes. In summary, since the abjad value of Surah Al-Ikhlas is 1003, it points to several profound realities at once. That 1003 recitations of Al-Ikhlas constitute a special and complete devotion of sincerity, that it is a detailed manifestation of the greatest name, Ism-i Azam, that by being repeated 3 times it equals a small completion of the Qur'an, that the threefold repetition indicates its supreme virtue, and that, on one level, by counting the doubled ra in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim as 2 letters, its abjad value corresponds, indicating that 1,000 basmalas are like 1,000 ikhlas, each being an expanded expression of the greatest name, Ism-i-Azam. In this way, through its letters, Surah Al-Ikhlas opens onto many profound mysteries. Moreover, since Tawhid, divine unity, the greatest of the Qur'an's 4 foundational principles, is proven through 6 sentences, each establishing one of the 6 degrees of unity and refuting one of the 6 forms of shirk, and since each sentence serves both as a conclusion to the others and as a premise for them, Surah Al-Ikhlas contains within itself 30 interconnected proofs, as though 30 surahs were embedded within this single short chapter. Thus, it demonstrates how vast an ocean of divine unity this small surah truly is. Consider likewise the subtle correspondences of its letters, the harmony of 5 alifs, 5 dals, and 5 wars, their correspondence with the 5 letters of the divine name, Allah, and the total number of letters being 67, which corresponds to the abjad value of the name Allah, indicating, through numerical meaning as well, that the surah itself proclaims Allah. Similarly, the harmony of 4 memes, 4 ha's, and, through tanwin, 4 noons, corresponding to the 4 verses of the surah, displays a refined elegance and a perfect order. Surah Al-Falaq. The order and harmony of the letters in Surah Al-Falaq show that it is rich with indications. In summary, the correspondence of 6 alifs, 6 kafs, and 6 lams with one another, their agreement with the 6 verses of the surah when the Basmala is included, and their subtle allusion to the 4 sixes within the total 6,666 Quranic verses, all of this befits the dignity of this mysterious chapter. Likewise, the correspondence of 3 dals, 3 shins, 3 scenes, and 3 fa'as with one another, together with the fact that the total number of letters in the surah is 99, subtly indicates that this chapter stands as a comprehensive act of seeking refuge through all 99 most beautiful names of Allah. Moreover, since the abjad value of its letters is slightly above 10,200, corresponding closely to the abjad value of the letters of Surah al-Fātiḥah, which is 10,212, it implies that each surah is connected with all the others, demonstrating both its precise order and its meaningful indications. Surah An-Nas. The letters of Surah An-Nas, in terms of repetition, rise in a perfectly ordered progression from 1 to 12. For example, Lam appears 11 times, Alif 10, Sin 9, Nun 7, Waw 6, Mim 5, Ra 4, Ya 3, Ha 2, Ha 1, and Qaf, just as the Lam in Surah Al-Ikhlas reaches 12. This precise progression displays a remarkable elegance and harmony. Since the total number of letters in this final surah of the Qur'an is 104, corresponding to the 104 revealed scriptures and scrolls given to the prophets, it subtly indicates, through the letters of the final chapter, that the wise Qur'an encompasses the essential truths of all the previous scriptures and prophetic books. Surah al-Fātiḥah and the whole Qur'an. The abjad calculation of the letters of Surah al-Fātiḥah, which totals 10,212, corresponds to the 10,000 repetitions of the letter Ba, and likewise the 10,000 repetitions of the letter Ta throughout the entire Qur'an. Furthermore, when the 10,000 is multiplied by the 7 verses of al-Fātiḥah, the result is 70,000, which corresponds exactly to the total number of Quranic words. This subtly indicates and calls attention to a well-known truth, confirmed by the people of spiritual insight and authenticated by hadith, that al-Fātiḥah is equal to the Qur'an. It is equivalent to it. The Qur'an is contained within al-Fātiḥah, and the 7 oft-repeated verses and the mighty Qur'an are al-Fātiḥah itself. Just as the disjointed letters, huruf al-muqatta'at, at the beginnings of certain surahs are profoundly meaningful and mysterious divine codes, so too, indeed even more so, the letters of al-Fātiḥah, and in fact the letters of the entire Qur'an, are sacred and diverse divine ciphers, each carrying thousands of meanings. Those who reflect carefully on the 8 symbols can sense this reality. And especially, the letters of Surah al-Fātiḥah are seen by the people of unveiling and spiritual insight to be a more manifest and luminous divine code, for which there are clear signs and indications. In summary, within the Basmala and Surah al-Fātiḥah, the hamzah appears 18 times. When combined with the abjad value of the Basmala, this corresponds, by the mystery of coincidence, to the number of the 18,000 realms, subtly implying that each alif serves as a key to a realm. Likewise, when the hamzah together with the silent alif totals 30, it indicates that al-Fātiḥah is contained within the 30 juz of the Qur'an. And since, without the Basmala, the hamzah appears 14 times, it points to the 7 verses of the 7 oft-repeated, indicating their twofold revelation and their repetition in prayer. Furthermore, the silent alif, numbering 13, and the lam, numbering 23, correspond, by one method of calculation, to the 36 words of al-Fātiḥah. This alludes to the 36 recitations of al-Fātiḥah within a 24-hour period, including the 5 obligatory prayers, their regular sunnahs, and the 2 rak'ahs of tahajjud, which stand in the place of regular prayers. Such indications are befitting of this sacred divine cipher. Moreover, when lam and alif together, excluding the basmala, total 30, and when this corresponds both to the abjad value of lam, to the 30 words of al-Fātiḥah without the basmala, and to the 30 juz of the Qur'an, it subtly indicates that the essentials of the entire Qur'an are contained within al-Fātiḥah. In the same way, the 23 occurrences of lam correspond to the 23 years of revelation, which may rightly be considered another indication of this sacred divine cipher. Just as the expression al in al-Fātiḥah fulfills this role, so too, as explained in the index of the 6th symbol, the 13 occurrences of al correspond by coincidence to the 13 well-known Quranic surahs that begin with al, expressing in a miraculous manner, "The Qur'an is within me. I am its index." The 5 occurrences of ha, 5 of mim, and 5 of ba, corresponding both with one another and with the 5 daily prayers, the 5 pillars of Islam. The fact that most words in al-Fātiḥah consist of 5 letters, and the presence of 5 beautiful names of Allah within it, together with the 4 occurrences of waw and 4 of dal, which allude to the obligation of reciting al-Fātiḥah in the 4 rak'ah prayers, and to many other significant Islamic 4s, all point to the refined order of this surah. Likewise, the 3 occurrences each of kaf, sin, and ta, and the 3-fold repetition of ta, totaling 1,200, allude, by correspondence with the abjad value of the verse, "Inna fatahna laka fathan mubinan," to the Qur'an's dominant and victorious position for approximately 1,200 years, followed thereafter by a period of resistance and defense. Such indications, too, are among the distinguishing marks of this sacred divine cipher. When the 3 repetitions of the letter Kaf are added to its abjad value, the total becomes 23, subtly alluding, by correspondence, to the 23 years of the revelation of divine revelation. Likewise, when the abjad value of Seen, which is 60, is combined with its 3 repetitions, the total alludes, by confirmation from the other indications, to the lifetime of the noble person who was the recipient of revelation. With the reinforcement of the other signs, such allusions are surely acceptable. Moreover, the correspondence of 2 occurrences each of Sad, Ta, Ghain, and Seen, together with the fact that in al-Fātiḥah, including the Basmala, there appear 2 occurrences of the divine name, 2 occurrences of Ar-Rahman, 2 of Ar-Rahim, 2 of Sirat, 2 of Iyak, and 2 of Alayhim, along with the confirmation of the meaning of the 7 oft-repeated, subtly indicates the 2-fold revelation of al-Fātiḥah. The obligation of reciting the Qur'an, both at its beginning and at its end, and the established sunnah of recitation at both the beginning and the conclusion of every good deed. All of this befits the dignity of this sacred and radiant divine cipher. Thus, if such samples emerge from only 1,000 of the thousands of mysteries related solely to the letters of al-Fātiḥah, then you may judge for yourself how immense a treasury of secrets al-Fātiḥah truly is. And from this, understand the wisdom behind the fact that the community of Muhammad recites al-Fātiḥah in every prayer. Allahumma bi hurmati al-Fātiḥah, ij'al Fātiḥata a'malina, miftah al-Fātiḥah, waj'al khatimata umurina, Fātiḥata al-Fātiḥah. أعني الحمد لله رب العالمين. O Allah, for the sake of al-Fātiḥah, make the opening of our deeds the key of al-Fātiḥah, and make the ending of our affairs the opening of al-Fātiḥah. That is, all praise be to Allah, the sustainer of all the worlds. A caution and an apology. When I wrote the 8 symbols, Rumuzat-i Semaniye, it was composed in great haste, and relying on my earlier memorized materials, I employed 2 approximate measures. On that basis, and drawing upon the calculations of the earlier scholars, I wrote concerning the mysteries of the miraculous nature of the Quranic letters. Later, we consulted the statements concerning the letters and words of the Qur'an found in the well-known and widely accepted commentary al-Mikyas, authored by Majd al-Din al-Feruz Abadi, the famous lexicographer of Al-Qamus. We found that 90% of his calculations corresponded with ours. Only in 5 or 10 places did we observe a discrepancy. Upon conducting a more precise verification, it became clear that our calculations were correct, and that the discrepancies in his work were the result of printing errors. Since such minor differences and small numerical remainders do not undermine correspondences found within such vast totals, and since I could not find the time to recalculate the entire Qur'an, letter by letter, word by word, and expression by expression, in a fully precise and investigative manner, nor to strengthen the subtle aspects of Quranic miraculousness through such exhaustive verification, I had to refrain from doing so. The oppressors did not allow me the time, therefore I sufficed with those approximate measures, with my memorized materials, with the calculations of the early scholars, and with the numbers found in the supplication of Kenz'al Arsh, Sayyid, expressing the miraculousness of the Qur'an through concise eloquence. Once, in a dream, I saw myself beneath Mount Ararat. Suddenly, the mountain erupted, scattering rocks as large as mountains across the world and shaking the earth. All at once, a man appeared beside me and said, Express the Qur'an's miraculousness through concise eloquence. Summarize with brevity the kinds of its inimitability that you know. While still in the dream, I reflected on its meaning and said to myself, this eruption is a sign of a great revolution among humankind. And in such a revolution, the guidance of the Qur'an, the Furqan, will surely rise everywhere and become dominant. The time will also come for the exposition of its miraculousness. In reply to that questioner, I said, the miraculousness of the Qur'an manifests from 7 universal sources and is composed of 7 essential elements. The first source. It arises from the fluency of its wording, the smoothness of its language, from the power of its composition, the eloquence of its meaning, the originality of its concepts, the purity of its themes, and the distinctiveness of its styles, all of which together give birth to a brilliant clarity of expression. From these there emerges, blended together within the temperament of miraculousness, a wondrous pattern of discourse and a remarkable artistry of language. Its repetition never wearies the listener. The second element. It contains, all at once, a treasury of knowledge of the unseen, from the hidden principles governing cosmic affairs, from the concealed mysteries of divine realities, from the unseen of the heavens, from events of the past that have vanished, and from conditions of the future that remain veiled. Thus, the language of the unseen realm speaks to the world of visible reality. Its pillars, its symbols, its elusive expressions. Addressing the whole of humanity, this is a luminous gleam of miraculousness. The third source. There is a 5-fold, extraordinary comprehensiveness in its wording, its meaning, its rulings, its knowledge, and the balance of its purposes. Its wording encompasses vast possibilities and numerous perspectives, each one approved by the standards of eloquence, correct in Arabic, and worthy of the wisdom of legislation. Its meaning embraces at once the paths of the saints, or Evliya, the tastes of the spiritually realized, or Arifin, the schools of the seekers, Salikin, the methods of the theologians, Mutakallimin, and the approaches of the philosophers, Hukama. Thus, that miraculous clarity of expression encompasses and contains them all. There is breadth in its indication and expanse in its meaning. If you look through this window, you will see how vast its field truly is. Its comprehensiveness in rulings, from it has been derived that extraordinary sacred law. In its mode of expression, it contains at once all the principles of happiness in both abodes, all the grounds of trust, all the bonds of social life, the means of moral training, and the truths of actual happenings. Its immersion in knowledge, it gathers together both the cosmic sciences and the divine sciences. Within it, the levels of indication, the elusive symbols and the subtle signs are assembled as gardens within the walls of its surahs. In its purposes and ultimate aims, there is balance, consistency, conformity with the laws of human nature, and unity, all fully observed and preserved with perfect measure. Thus, in the scope of its wording, the breadth of its meaning, the comprehensiveness of its rulings, the depth of its knowledge, and the balance of its purposes, there appears a magnificent and radiant comprehensiveness. The fourth element, it pours forth a luminous effusion according to the level of understanding, literary rank, and capacity of every age, and according to the aptitude and ability of every class within each age. Its door is open to every age, and to every group within every age, as though at every moment and in every place that word of the most merciful were being revealed anew. As time grows old, the Qur'an grows ever young. Its symbols become clearer, It tears away the veil of nature and causes, and that divine addressing breaks through. From every verse, at every moment, the light of divine oneness pours forth. It lifts the veil of the visible world from over the unseen. It calls the human gaze to attend to the sublimity of its addressing, for it is the language of the unseen, speaking directly with the visible world. From this element emerges its extraordinary freshness, an all-encompassing ocean of meaning. For the familiarity of minds, there are divine condescensions to human reason. In the style of revelation, there is a variety that brings intimacy, beloved to both humanity and the soul. The fifth source. In its transmission and narratives, in its truthful reports, it speaks with a unique and meaning-rich style, as though a present witness were recounting the essential points, thereby awakening humanity. What it conveys includes reports of the earliest events, happenings of the end, and the mysteries of hell and paradise. Its narratives concern both the truths of the unseen and the mysteries of the visible world, the divine secrets and the connections of the cosmos, told as though plainly observed. Such accounts have never been refuted by reality, nor denied by sound reason. Even if reason does not fully comprehend them, it cannot reject them. Regarding the heavenly scriptures, which are the universal point of reference for the world, in matters of agreement, it confirms them faithfully. In matters of disagreement, it corrects them with discernment. That such transmitted truths should proceed from an unlettered one is itself a miracle of the age. The sixth element. The sixth element is the religion of Islam, which the Qur'an both contains and establishes. Neither the past nor the future can produce its like. Search time and place as you will. Our earth is bound within its annual and daily orbits by this heavenly cord. It has held and turned it, weighed upon the globe and took the reins of it, restraining rebellion and disorder. The seventh source? From these six sources, the six lights emerge and blend together at once. From this comes beauty. From that, insight, becoming a luminous medium. From this arises a delight, the delight of miraculousness, whose description our language cannot fully reach. Even thought falls short. Those heavenly stars are seen, yet cannot be grasped. Over 13 centuries, a powerful urge to challenge the Qur'an has stirred among its opponents, while a desire to imitate has awakened among its admirers. This itself is a proof of its miraculousness. Because of these two intense impulses, millions of Arabic books have been written and have entered the libraries of existence. Were a balance to be set between them and the revelation, even one of little learning, indeed even the most ordinary person, would say by sight and hearing, "These are human, that is heavenly." And he would judge, "This does not resemble those, nor can it be of their rank. If it were lower than them, its falsity would be obvious. Therefore, it stands above them all." Its meanings have, for so long a time, been offered openly to humanity, inviting minds and souls alike. Humanity has handled them and even claimed them as its own, yet with those very meanings, it has never been able to oppose the Qur'an, nor ever will. The time of trial has passed. It does not resemble other books, nor can it be measured against them. For over 20 years, it was revealed gradually, in response to needs, in separate and successive portions, a divine wisdom. Its occasions of revelation were varied and distinct. In a single matter, questions were repeated and diverse. The events concerning its rulings were numerous and different, and the times of its revelation were varied and scattered. Its modes of reception are varied and diverse. Its categories of addressees are many and far-reaching. Its aims of instructions advance by stages and differ according to need. Upon these foundations rest both its structure and its expression, its responses and its addressing. Yet, alongside all this, it displays fluency and soundness, proportion and coherence, manifesting perfection itself. The witness to this is the science of rhetoric and meaning. There is a unique quality in the Qur'an that is found in no other speech. When you hear any discourse, you perceive the true speaker behind it, or you find him within it. Style becomes a mirror of the speaker. O exemplary questioner, you asked for conciseness, and I've pointed to it. If you seek detailed exposition, that lies beyond my limits. A fly cannot survey the heavens. For of the 40 kinds of Quranic miraculousness, even a single one, the majestic power of its composition, could not be fully contained in Isharat al-Ijaz. 100 pages of my commentary were not sufficient to explain it. You possess an abundance of spiritual inspiration. Therefore, I ask this of you. Present its explanation in full and in detail. On true literary and the illusions of modern taste. Ulash mazdasti adabi gharbi, hawas bari hawakari, dahadar, adab abad muddati Qur'ani diya, bari shifakari, hudadar. A state that pleases the refined taste of perfected people does not appeal to a childish whim or to one possessed of a frivolous and debased nature. It does not entertain them. By this wisdom, a person fully nourished on base, frivolous, ego-centered and lust-driven pleasures does not recognize spiritual delight. Viewing the Qur'an through a novelistic lens borrowed from Europe, such a taste can neither see nor savor the Qur'an's sublime subtleties and majestic excellences. The measure within itself cannot gauge it. In literature, there are 3 arenas of movement, and it roams only within them, unable to step beyond: love and beauty, heroism and valor, or the depiction of reality. Yet when this foreign literature takes the path of heroism, it does not uphold justice. Rather, it applauds the cruelties of tyrannical humanity, instilling a worship of power. In matters of beauty and love, it does not know true love, but instead injects provocative, desire-stirring pleasures into the soul. As for the depiction of reality, it does not behold the universe as divine artistry, nor can it see it imbued with a merciful imprint. Instead, it remains trapped within the viewpoint of nature, portraying only that, and never moving beyond it. Hence, it instills a love of nature, planting materialism within the heart, from which it cannot easily free itself. What follows from this is that the pains of the soul, born of misguidance, are merely numbed and lulled by this corrupted literature. It offers no true remedy. It has found but one medicine: the novel. A living corpse like a book, a moving dead body like cinema, and the dead cannot give life. Likewise, with its theatre-like displays, resembling a form of reincarnation, it shamelessly animates the ghosts of the vast grave called the past through these 3 kinds of novels. It places a false tongue in humanity's mouth, fits a corrupt eye upon the human face, and dresses the world in a coquettish gown. It does not recognize pure beauty. When it claims to show the sun, it instead points to a fair-haired actress and subtly gives its warning. Outwardly it says, "Dissoluteness is evil. It does not befit humanity." It displays the harmful outcome, yet it portrays that very dissolute life so enticingly that it makes them drooling and reason loses its rule. It inflames appetite, excites desire. Passion no longer listens to counsel. The literature of the Qur'an, however, does not mingle with lust. It awakens a devotion to truth, a love for pure beauty, a delight in true loveliness, and a zeal for devotion to truth without deceiving. It does not view the universe from the standpoint of blind nature. Rather, it speaks from the perspective of divine artistry and a merciful imprint, and it does not bewilder the mind. It instills the light of knowing the Maker. It shows his sign in everything. Both literatures give a tender sorrow, yet they are not alike. The Europeanized literature produces a mournful sadness arising from abandonment and loss of beloved friends. It cannot give an exalted sorrow, for it is inspired by deaf nature and a blind force, yielding a gloomy sense of grief. It portrays the world as a desolate wilderness and shows it in no other way. It presents it thus, leaves the sorrowful one desolate among savages, offers no hope at all. With this emotional agitation, it leads step by step toward denial, opening the road to heedless ease. Return becomes difficult, perhaps impossible. The literature of the Qur'an, however, gives a sorrow that is loving, not orphaned. It comes from separation from beloved friends, not from their annihilation. In the universe, its gaze is not on blind nature, but on a conscious and merciful divine artistry. It does not speak of nature. In place of blind force, it sets forth a caring, wise, divine power. Therefore, the universe does not appear as a wilderness. Rather, in the eyes of the sorrowful addressee, it becomes a community of friends. Everywhere there is mutual response. On every side, mutual affection. It does not oppress the heart. In every corner, there is intimacy. Within that community, it places the sorrowful one with a longing, hopeful grief, an exalted feeling, rather than a bleak despair. Both impart a kind of fervor. The fervor produced by that foreign literature excites the ego. Desire becomes unrestrained, yet it gives no true relief to the soul. The fervor of the Qur'an, however, stirs the soul itself and bestows a lofty zeal. For this reason, the Muhammadan Sharia, peace and blessings be upon him, does not approve of frivolous amusements. It forbids certain instruments of diversion, while permitting others as lawful. Thus, an instrument that gives rise to a Quranic sorrow or a revelatory zeal causes no harm. But if it produces an orphaned sorrow or a carnal excitement, then that instrument is forbidden. This varies from person to person. Not everyone is the same. A passage from the Addendum of the Risale-i Nur. If you wish, you may write its translation. Know this, that among the subtle aspects of the Qur'an's miraculous nature, and among the proofs that it is a universal mercy for all mankind, is this: just as every individual in the world has a world that is particular to him, so too, for each person, according to his disposition and spiritual taste, there is a Qur'an drawn from the Qur'an that addresses him personally, nurtures him, and heals him. And among the fine qualities of its gentle guidance is this: despite the perfect harmony, utmost coherence, and complete interconnection between its verses, it is made easy for every individual to take selected verses from different surahs for his guidance and healing, just as people of all spiritual paths and all branches of knowledge have done. Footnote: the most comprehensive of these today is the Hizb al-Quran al-Akbar. Thus, although you may see the verses as dispersed with respect to their places and occasions of revelation, you then see them transformed into a perfectly ordered necklace, harmoniously arranged and connected with their newly revealed sister verses. By being separated from their original context, they do not lose anything, nor do they feel estranged when joined with other verses. For Quranic verses possess subtle relationships with all other verses, which allow them to be mentioned together and connected with one another. Just as Surah al-Ikhlas Qur'an 112 contains within it 30 surahs, by joining its sentences to one another as proofs and conclusions, as mentioned in Lema'at, page 93, so too the Qur'an, both universal and particular, and even the form of it limited to a single individual, contains, through the comprehensive nature of its verses, multiple layers of meaning. Thus, within the Qur'an itself are thousands upon thousands of Qur'ans. And for every person of truth within it, there is a book particular to him and to those who follow him. Supplication. O Allah, O Revealer of the Qur'an, by the right of the Qur'an, make the Qur'an a source of intimacy for me and for the students of the Risale-i Nur, in our lives and after our deaths, and a light in my heart, in their hearts, in my grave, and in their graves. Amen. There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Peace and blessings be upon him. 2. Mighty proofs of divine unity and a subtle miracle of Surah al-Ikhlas. This universe in its entirety is a mighty proof. The tongue of the unseen glorifies through the realm of visible, proclaiming divine unity. Yes, with the oneness of the All-Merciful, it remembers with a great voice, declaring, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. All atoms and cells, all pillars and organs are each a tongue of remembrance. Together with that great voice, they proclaim, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. There is diversity in those tongues and degrees in those voices, yet they are gathered at a single point, His remembrance, His call, saying, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. This is a macro-human, Insani Akbar, remembering with a mighty voice. All its parts and particles, with their tiny sounds, join that exalted proclamation and say, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. This world, within the circle of remembrance, recites its portion. This Qur'an, the rising place of light. Every conscious being turns its reflection to this truth. La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. This glorious criterion, the Furqan, is an articulate proof speaking of that unity. All its verses are truthful tongues, radiant flashes of faith. Together they proclaim, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. If you were to press your ear to the breast of this criterion, from depth to depth you would clearly hear a heavenly voice saying, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. That voice is supremely exalted, utterly serious, perfectly sincere, most intimate, most convincing, and fully equipped with proof. It repeatedly declares, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. Within this luminous proof, the 6 directions are transparent. Upside, the heavens, is inscribed and blossoming the radiant seal of miraculousness. The light of guidance, shining within, proclaims, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. Yes, downside the globe is woven a light, refined logic and proof. To its right, the past, it interrogates the intellect. All around it is adorned, and minds proclaim, You have spoken the truth, saying, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. On its left, the future, it calls the conscience to witness. Backside, pre-eternity, stands goodness and beauty. Its ultimate aim is felicity. Its key at every moment is, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. Front side, post-eternity, lies a heavenly support, pure, unalloyed divine revelation. These 6 directions overflow. Upon their towers the manifestation shines, proclaiming, La ilaha illa huwa. There is no deity except Him. Indeed, how dare that the thieving delusions, or the dark intrusive doubts, such rebels could ever enter this radiant palace? For it is a shining sun, whose surahs are lofty peaks. Every word is a speaking angel declaring, there is no deity except Him. What an ocean of divine unity is this glorious Qur'an. A single drop, for example, a single surah al-Ikhlas, yet even one brief symbol of it from its endless illusions. It rejects all forms of associating partners with God and proves 7 modes of divine unity, 3 negative, 3 affirmative, within these 6 statements. First statement, Qul huwa. Say, He, an indication without a contextual qualifier. This signifies absolute designation. Within that designation lies determination. O, La huwa illa huwa. There is no one except Him. This is an indication of unity and direct witnessing. When the truth-seeing gaze is immersed in divine unity, it declares, La mashhuda illa huwa. There is none witnessed except Him. Second statement, Allahu ahadun. Allah is one, an explicit declaration of the unity of divinity. Truth itself, speaking in the language of reality, proclaims, La ma'buda illa huwa. There is none worthy of worship except Him. Third statement, Allahu samadu. Allah, the Absolute, the ever relied upon. This points directly to 2 jewels of divine unity. The first pearl is the unity of lordship. Yes, the language of cosmic order proclaims, La khaliqa illa huwa. There is no creator except Him. The second pearl, the unity of sustaining self-subsistence, Tawhid al-Qayyumiyah. Yes, throughout the entire universe, both in existence and in continuance, the language of need for an effective sustainer proclaims, La qayyuma illa huwa. There is no self-subsisting sustainer except Him. The fourth statement, Lam yalid, He begets not. Within it lies a majestic form of divine unity, concealed yet decisive. It rejects every form of associating partners with God and cuts off unbelief without ambiguity. That is, whatever undergoes change, or reproduces, or divides, such a being can neither be creator, nor sustainer, nor deity. The notion of progeny, the blasphemy of birth, is decisively rejected by them, cut off at once, eradicated entirely. It is through this form of association that the majority of humankind has gone astray. For at times, among mankind, the belief in generation appears, whether attributed to Jesus, peace be upon him, or to Ezra, or to the angels, or to intellects themselves. The fifth statement, وَلَمْ يُولَدْ. Nor was he begotten. This is an indication of eternal and timeless unity. A true deity must be necessary, pre-eternal, and without beginning. That is, if a being is originated in time, or generated from matter, or separated from a prior source, it can never be a refuge for this universe. Cause worship, star worship, idol worship, nature worship, each is a form of associating partners with God, each a pit of misguidance. The sixth statement, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ. And there is none comparable to him. This is an all-encompassing unity, no equal in his essence, no partner in his acts, no likeness in his attributes. All of this is encompassed by the gaze of the word lam. These six statements are, in meaning, both the conclusions of one another and the proofs of one another, a chain sequence of evidences and an ordered structure of results, all established within this surah. Thus, within Surah Al-Ikhlas, according to its own concise stature, 30 surahs are contained, interlinked and ordered, and this surah becomes their dawn. لا يعلم الغيب إلا الله. None knows the unseen except Allah.